When we think of ancient superpowers, Rome, Egypt, Persia, those are the usual suspects, right? But what if I told you there was another one? A global economic giant that quietly, for millennia, dominated world trade and almost bankrupted the Roman Empire. Okay, let's get into this forgotten history.
And hey, this isn't some modern hot take. That's a direct quote from Pliny the Elder, a Roman author, a commander, and he was furious. I mean, you can just feel it, right? He's watching his empire's gold just hemorrhage eastward, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. So the question is, why? What on earth did ancient India have that the most powerful empire in the world wanted that badly?
The answer? Believe it or not, pepper. Yeah, the same spice that's probably sitting in your kitchen right now. Romans were so obsessed with this black gold from India that they would literally pay for it with its weight in actual gold. And that 55 million sesterces a year? That is an absolutely insane amount of money. To put it in perspective, that's enough to fund an entire Roman legion for more than 10 years, all for pepper.
And that brings us to the real mystery here. How did they pull this off? Because it wasn't just about having a cool product. It was about having a technological, a military, and an economic system that was just centuries ahead of everybody else.
So the first piece of this puzzle, it's all about the water. See, while other ancient civilizations were, nervously hugging the coastlines, Indian sailors were doing something that looked like straight-up magic. They were just disappearing over the horizon, and then weeks later, popping back up, their ships loaded with goods.
Just look at the difference in strategy here. It's night and day. Roman and Greek ships, they're inching along the coast. It's slow, it's dangerous, it could take months. But ancient Indian mariners, they had cracked the code. They figured out the monsoon winds. They would ride these massive seasonal currents directly across the open Arabian Sea. This monsoon dash, as they call it, was fast, it was direct, and it left all of their competitors scratching their head.
And we're not talking about little boats here. Oh no. The Chola Empire around the 10th century was building these absolute beasts called Mara columns. We're talking multi-deck ships over 200 feet long. These things were the supercarriers of their day. They completely dwarfed any European vessels and could carry a mind-boggling amount of cargo and people.
But wait, how did they build ships that big that could actually survive the rough open ocean? Well, they used this totally revolutionary technique. It's called sewn boat technology. So instead of nailing planks together into a rigid hull that could just snap under stress, they stitched them together with coconut fiber. This gave the entire ship this incredible flexibility. It could literally bend and flex with the giant ocean waves instead of fighting them. It was genius, pure genius.
Okay, so mastering the sea is one thing. That's half the battle. But you also need stuff that everybody wants, and crucially, that nobody else can make. And ancient India had a whole arsenal of these kinds of products, starting with an actual weapon.
Right, to protect these incredibly valuable trade routes, their navy had a terrifying secret weapon. It was known as the Agnya Ostris, and you can think of this as a kind of ancient napalm that could turn the ocean itself into a weapon.
Just try to imagine this from an enemy's point of view. You see this giant ship coming at you, and suddenly it's launching fire. Fire that sticks to your ship, fire that you can't put out with water, fire that literally turns your entire fleet into a floating bonfire. This nasty mixture of sulfur, resin, and oils, it's how they secured absolute control over the Indian Ocean.
But their dominance wasn't just military. They were also producing luxury goods of a quality that was just unimaginable at the time. The most famous was a fabric so fine, so delicate, it was known across the entire world as woven air.
This might be my favorite detail of this whole story. Indian muslin was so transparent, so light, that Roman moralists were completely scandalized by it. They were complaining that it left women, and I quote, walking naked in the streets. It said that a 50-meter roll of this stuff could be packed into a tiny matchbox. It was the ultimate status symbol, a true ancient flex.
But it wasn't just fabrics that had the Romans hooked. While the women in Rome were coveting woven air, their soldiers were after another Indian export, a metal that seemed to just defy the laws of physics. They called it woot steel.
This steel was their secret weapon, their technological edge. It was so strong, so sharp, it became the stuff of legend. This is the metal that made the famous Damascus swords, the ones that could supposedly slice a piece of silk falling through the air. And get this, modern analysis has revealed its secret. It contains carbon nanotubes. We are literally talking about ancient nanotechnology, creating a metal that could shatter the inferior iron blades of Europe. Okay, so you've got mastery of the seas. You've got a monopoly on high-tech goods. But how do you organize all of this? How do you possibly manage a global trade network on this kind of scale? Well, the answer was an invention just as revolutionary as their ships or their steel.
They were called the Shrenis. Now, these weren't just simple little groups of merchants. No way. These were incredibly sophisticated trade guilds. You should think of them as the world's first multinational corporations, and they held an unbelievable amount of power.
I mean, look at what these organizations could do. They acted as banks, lending huge sums of money directly to kings. They minted their own coins, which is a sign of real power. And they even had their own private armies to guard their caravans and ships. In a lot of ways, these guilds were even more powerful than the kingdoms they operated in.
And the nerve center for all of this global trade? A legendary port city on the coast of Kerala, which the Romans called Muziris. This place was known as the Emporium of the World, a bustling metropolis of just unimaginable wealth that completely vanished from history after a catastrophic flood hit it in 1341.
And we have cold, hard proof of the insane wealth that was flowing through Muziris. Archaeologists actually found a 2nd century shipping contract. It's called the Muziris Papyrus, and it details a single cargo shipment worth somewhere between 7 and 9 million sesterces. Just that one deal, that one ship, was enough to buy a massive, luxurious estate in the heart of Rome. Wild.
But here's the thing. This economic dominance, it didn't just pop up overnight when the Romans came along. Nope. This was the result of a maritime tradition that was already thousands of years old. Let's just trace it back for a second.
This timeline just shows an incredible unbroken legacy. We're talking 4,500 years ago. You've got Mesopotamian clay tablets talking about trading with a mysterious land of giant ships they called Meluha. We now know that was the Indus Valley civilization. Then, 4,000 years ago, they built the world's very first tidal dockyard at a place called Lothal. So this is a continuous story of innovation and global reach that spans millennia.
And the reach of this trade was so deep that it touched every single part of Roman life, including its most brutal form of entertainment. You know, the star attractions of the Colosseum. They often weren't from Africa or Europe. You got it. Indian traders made an absolute fortune shipping exotic and terrifying animals that Romans had never even seen before. Royal Bengal tigers, massive rhinoceroses, even huge cobras. They were all part of the Indian connection. It's just a final testament to the sheer logistical power and the exotic appeal of this ancient trade network. And really, this is why this whole story matters. It forces us to just reconsider the map of the ancient world, to see it not just as a story centered around the Mediterranean, but as a deeply interconnected globe where power and wealth and incredible innovation could come from anywhere. And it really leaves you wondering, what other parts of our history have we